So Vicki, I've got to ask, where did this story come from? What is the origins behind it? And trying to recapture the 70s and that feel of time, I was blown away because I felt like I was there.
Awesome. Yeah, well, that credit goes to our amazing set decorator. Incredible, and costumes too. It's definitely taken from personal experience. I had, when I was 12, my mom's partner's daughter came to stay with us. And my mom was a hardworking mom, working 2 jobs most of the time. So we were on our own a lot. And I was just starting to get curious about those mysterious creatures called boys. And I wanted someone to talk to about it. And so mother's partner's daughter came to stay. She was 16. And when she walked in, I swear, I just was like, oh, that's who I want to be. Platform shoes, fabulous feathered hair. And the boys adored her. And I wanted to be adored by boys. So I thought, next best thing, become her best friend. But 12 and 16, pretty light years apart, you know. So it wasn't going to work out so well. And that was the inspiration for the script.
Very cool. Stacie, what did you love about this character, Janice, and what drove you to want to be this character? Because you are, there's not many adults, especially not in the amount of time in this film. You're the mother.
Yes. Well, so I'm also one of the producers on the films, and when Vicki and Sophia, one of the other producers, brought the script to me, I was immediately drawn to it because of the females in the script. Like, there was a bunch of, they're each kind of role models to someone in the film, and for me, I think it's really important, women supporting women and being a role model and knowing when to give advice and when to take advice, and I just felt like that was really special.
There are women obviously in front of the camera, behind the camera. Can you talk about this team? And it is woman-centric, and obviously the festival we're at, that is what this festival was created for.
Yeah. Do you want to, or you, okay, sure. Well, so I also run a women in film group called the Filmmakers, and you know, when they brought me the script, I first, my husband, who's a producer on it, they were interested in him directing, and he was like, no, I'm not. This needs to be directed by a female. And I was like, oh, well, I know lots of those. Let me reach out to my ladies. And we were lucky enough to have Lanny Zapoy, who had a film here last year, come on as director. And we made sure to, because it's a female story, because I'm surrounded by female filmmakers, because they're all very smart, we wanted to make sure we had not only a gender diverse crew, but also a racial diverse crew. And we made sure most of our heads of department were actually people of color. So it was, I think that it makes the point of view more varied. Like, you get a richer story by having different people on your set.
How much does it help the 2 young actresses that are playing these roles to also being in that environment? I would gather that, I mean, both are actually well accomplished, so they've been on sets, but to come into this environment, how did you feel they approached these characters, maybe even more gung-ho because of the environment they were in?
Yeah. Do you want to?
Well, Alexa Swinton, she plays our lead, Dolores, one of the leads, and she's on the reboot of Sex and the City, or the new chapter of Sex and the City, and Just Like That. And she said one of the reasons she was so attracted to this story is that it's set in the 70s. So she was really excited about being in that setting. And also, I think it intrigued her how different it was to be a kid in the 70s as opposed to what being a kid is like for her now. Like, for instance, one thing she mentioned was cell phones. Like, if she was at a mall in the 70s, she wouldn't be able to just text a friend and say, oh, guess who's at the mall? You know, she'd have to wait till she got home and shout them. So there's the difference between technology, but also I think parenting is different now than it was when I was growing up.
Yeah, and I think, I think it Alexa's mom is also an actor and a producer, and so for them coming on board, having like female producers, having a female director, I think that was definitely it made them more comfortable. It made them like want to say yes, to be a part of people that are doing the same thing that they're doing or they're trying to do. And for Cheyenne, who plays Cleo, the babysitter, we made sure that there was a black hairstylist on set, because it's important. Like for me as an actor, I'm always concerned, like who's going to be doing my face. Like that is that's what you're seeing. Yeah. So we wanted to make sure that Cheyenne, who's 19, was comfortable with whoever was going to be touching her hair, because it's a very important thing.
I love to jump back in the 70s a little bit. I was amazed by the clothing, but the glimpses of cars. Y'all actually use legit cars. Where did you find these cars? That's not always a fun experience, but keeping just as specific as you are in this film, how much fun was that, and how much did it reflect your writing and your memories?
Oh boy. That's such a loaded question. So our cars were provided almost entirely. Our picture car did cost us the station wagon, the cool station wagon, which our director loves. But all of the other cars were provided for us for free by a lovely gentleman. His company's called Danny C. Entertainment. And he was just the best. Like I reached out to him and said, we need, vintage cars for our drive-in scene. He charged us nothing. He just called all of his friends and said, if you want to be in a cool drive-in scene, bring your car out on this night. I gave him basically a year and said, between this year and this year is what we need. Mm-hmm. And they just showed up, and it was fabulous. It was, and Aaron, who plays Juan in the film, said that was like a highlight for him to get to sit in that station wagon.
It was kind of like Dazed and Confused. It was just a ton of like Novas, and everyone's like, oh my God, this is legit.
Yeah.
Yeah, having those cars drive up was amazing. Like you just like everyone's head just turned and they were like, whoa, this is so cool.
Here comes another one.
It was like a little parade into the drive-in. So yeah.
Can I ask you about the title and where you came up with that title? Was it always that, or did it have a different name?
No, originally I titled it Dolores. Yeah, and then I got to I pulled it out of the drawer a couple years ago. I was like, the title's just, I like the name Dolores because it feels a bit awkward, but it also is like, the meaning behind it is a person of sorrow, but it just doesn't fit her, because she's so feisty. But when I pulled it out, I was like, that's just not a catchy title. And then I thought, Love's Baby Soft. That's so cool. And I can't tell you the women who come up to me now and say, I remember that perfume. So we actually got Love's Baby Soft to sponsor our film. It's amazing.
And I'm just going to...
Yeah.
Vicki, this is actually a pilot, a proof of concept for a pilot, and Vicki wrote a pilot, and it was a second rounder at Austin, and that's what was called Love's Baby Soft, and that because it was a second rounder, it was brought to Dana Fragrance's attention that there was a script out there called Love's Baby Soft. So... Yeah.
For like legal reasons.
Yeah. Of course.
That's
but
awesome.
They read it and they were like, "Oh, this is a really good script. We like it." And so after a bit of talking with them, they're now a sponsor of our short.
Very cool. Speaking of Austin and the festival circuit here in Bentonville, what are the audience's reactions, not just to their memories, but of this coming of age story? How have audiences reacted to this film? Old, young, men, women, anything?
I've actually been really surprised on the festival circuit, the people that are loving our short, the people that come up to us. I mean, at one of the festivals, there was probably a 40-something black man that came up and was just like, your short's amazing. And I think it's something about the nostalgia of the 70s. I think it's something about the diversity of the cast. Like, we're showing real life, and there's this like young white girl that's looking up to this like amazing black woman. And I think that things that are traditionally set in the 70s, maybe exploit people a little bit more than what our film is doing. And I think that that's why it's it's intriguing to like your average person.
Yeah, I also think, though, that it's coming of age is a universal thing. It doesn't matter where you come from. We all go through that awkward stage between being a kid and becoming a grown-up. So I think people can relate to that no matter what decade it's set in and no matter what country it's set in.
Where did you shoot? Where's this house?
It's in Hudson, New York. It's upstate New York.
Really?
Yeah.
Did y'all decorate it? Because I hope that's not. Is it still looked that way?
So I can take that one. So that's one of my female filmmakers from the Filmmakers, and she has recently converted part of her house to be an Airbnb, and she was thinking about doing locations, and she was like, well, let's try it out. Like, I would love to offer you a location. And she had that traditional like ranch split level like walk up, and what she had in her living room was a white shag rug. And our director Lanny was like, that one, like the white shag rug. It did not have wood paneling. That is, that peel and stick wallpaper does amazing things. Yes. So that's peel and stick wallpaper. Her house is back to a lovely 2020 feel now, but
I helped put that paneling in.
Yeah. Yes, our set designer Brianna was fantastic.
Very nice. It
Also,
looks so authentic. It looks great.
So many of those props came from my parents' basement because they don't throw anything out.
So cool. What does it mean to be in a festival like Bentonville, knowing what their values are, what Gina and Wendy have cultivated, and knowing that it's a great launching point for something like this? I love this film at this festival.
Our film screened yesterday in a shorts block that was so wonderful. Film after film, I was so impressed by, and I felt so honored to be a part of those with those other filmmakers. But it's important because it also makes me feel honored in particular because their mission is to champion diverse voices like ours. And one of the things that I think our film and the TV series will speak to is how things have changed over the decades, but also how much they stay the same, sometimes tragically, with the Roe v. Wade decision coming out today. And to be a part of a festival like this where we're trying to make change and champion the rights of individuals, it's so important, and it couldn't be more important than today for me. It just feels like that way for me.
It does feel like the circumstances have completely altered. We were just talking to a filmmaker earlier that it's weird, but we're happy we're here.
Yeah.
Like, we could be in a place where it's not being argued the opposite correct stance, if that makes sense. And knowing that Gina's going to speak later tonight it's powerful to be at a festival that understands just how crazy this has changed things in our country.
Exactly, yeah.
I would love to know, since you've brought up that there's a future to this story. Can you share with us what are the steps down the line? I know things may change, things may alter, but what are your goals with this story? How far do we get to follow in Dolores' steps? Do we get to venture off of her steps? And what are your goals as a writer for this? And is Janice going to be all the way through it?
Oh, definitely. Well, we have a Bible, so we have a series outline written. We also have a pitch deck. And I have mapped their story. It's really Cleo and Dolores' story, and about how a 12-year-old and a 16-year-old are kind of light years apart, but really what they end up discovering is that they need each other, and they have things to learn from each other about what it means to become women. Because Dolores, for instance, she makes a lot of assumptions about Cleo. Like, in my mind, writing the pilot and mapping out the series, Dolores has assumed that Cleo's already had sex. And she is surprised to discover down the line that Cleo hasn't had sex yet. She's grappling with that decision. And so we start out with them kind of being light years apart, and then in the second season, Dolores starts junior high. And Cleo's also struggling she's basically trying to fulfill what her parents want for her. She's busing to a new, like, blindingly white school because her parents think she'll have better opportunities there, when in actuality, she's missing her friends, and she's not being allowed to achieve her personal dream of becoming a chef. So in the future seasons, we'll get to see Cleo come into her own and stand up for herself and be like, no, this is what I want to do. And Dolores is a feisty, independent spirit, so she's going to kind of learn, oh, that's not really what being a woman means. I thought it was that, but it's not. Because I love Dolores. She's written her resume already, even though she's 12. And she's mapping out she's plotting her move to Manhattan. She's going to start work at Studio 54 and work her way up as a bartender to a dancer. So I have like 2 seasons mapped out, and it's going to be fun. So I'm looking to pitch it to producers.
Well, I hope they watch. Yeah.
Yes.
Lastly, just if you can share with us what's also down the line, separately on your other work. Are you writing other stories, any other stories about family, for instance, or anything that's down your line? And Stacie, work-wise, what's going on?
Stacie, you go first.
Oh, okay. Yes, I'm actually attached to 2 features right now, as an actor and a producer on one and an actor on the other. The one that I'm a producer on is a feature set in Detroit. It's called The Spirit of Detroit, and it is about a super smart 11-year-old black girl and a racially tone-deaf 30-something white guy, and it's kind of a two-hander between the 2 of them. And then the other feature that I'm attached to it's interesting. They both have young kids in them. It's about this 12-year-old girl who is an amputee, and she's recently lost her family in a car accident. She moves in with her grandmother, and who's a Holocaust survivor. And so there's a little bit of politics in this film, and I'm playing the local Catholic diner owner, and it's like the diner that everyone comes to congregate in. So they're very interesting films.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I wrote actually a dramatic version of Love's Baby Soft, a dramatic feature, much darker. And it's about, like, if you picture Janice, the mother, as, I guess, a bad mom. It's called Loved Ones, and it's about what happens when a 12-year-old, when her older sister shows up on their doorstep and she didn't even know she existed. And it's kind of like a love triangle, how the entrance of this daughter returning, a prodigal daughter returning, upsets the family dynamic. And then I just wrote, all of my stuff tends to be inspired by my family. I just wrote a comedy I'm so excited about. It's called Elvis Has Left the Building, and it's about my relationship with my aunt, one of my aunts. And I adore her, and she drives me crazy. And so I kind of pictured, what would it be like if we actually lived together? And the main character really kind of has no life of her own, because she spent her entire life caring for her aunt. And it's all about, what happens when she decides, you know what, I want something for myself, and just, shenanigans ensue.
Well, guys, I can't wait to see these things down the line. I can't wait to see Dolores's and Cleo's journey. I was blown away by this. I think those 2 actresses embody this so amazingly. I hope they stick with it, because it's their characters in my mind. But thank you for bringing it to Bentonville and Austin. We're from Texas, so rock on. And I can't wait to see what's down the line. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.